and welcome to another episode of the movie review show on Bladesboy videos. What's the movie review show? Well, basically I watch all the latest, hottest movies to come out every weekend. I then come home, record my reviews and put it on YouTube. And every Monday you have the movie review show. So this weekend I watched The Other Side of the Door, I watched Hail Caesar, and I watched London Has Fallen. So The Other Side of the Door was directed by Johannes Roberts. It stars Sarah Wayne Callies, who you may remember from Walking Dead. She stars as Maria. Jeremy Sisto, who you may recognise from Law & Order, as Michael. And Sofia Rzinski as Lucy. Following the death of Michael and Maria's son in a tragic car accident, Maria is presented with an opportunity to speak with her son one last time for one last goodbye. There is, however, one rule which, when broken, results in an upset between the balance of life and death. So immediately, whenever I see a horror movie that is rated 15 in the UK, I start to get a little bit worried. You know, if your horror movie isn't an 18, then I'm not quite sure it's going to scare an adult. And this one lived up to my fears. There's no real acting talent in this movie, which you find with a lot of horror films. Whether that's because there's not much acting to do, it's all about just being scared, or whether that's just because horror movies don't get the budget to get real talent in there. What it results in is undeveloped characters and characters that you don't care for. Now, if you don't care for a character that's in a situation that's scary, that situation isn't scary. The jumps were expected, underwhelming, and textbook. The score did nothing to build up the suspense, and I genuinely think in a horror movie the score is just as important as the director, the actors, the story. If you can get that score right, you can have a terrifying movie. The hardest scene to watch was when the little boy dies. It's not scary, it's just she has to neglect him in the car to save herself and her other child, and then obviously she can't go back into the water, no one will let her, because the likelihood is she won't come back out. I found the film pretty boring and pretty slow. I wasn't impressed by it at all. There were that one good scene with a child drowning in the car that really had me biting my fingernails. That's the way it starts, and it goes downhill from there. I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 10, and when will I rewatch it? Let's face it, I'm not going to. On to the next one. So, my most anticipated film of this weekend, Hail Caesar, directed by the Coen brothers, who gave you No Country for Old Men and Fargo, as well as a whole host of other movies that all seem to be uniquely weird in their own way. It stars an all-star ensemble, including Josh Brolin as Eddie Mannix, George Clooney as Baird Whitlock, Alden Ehrenreich as Hobie Doyle, Scarlett Johansson as Deanna Moran, Tilda Swinton plays twin sisters Thora and Thessaly Thacker, and cameos come from Ralph Fiennes, Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill. So the story is set in 1950s Hollywood. It follows a day in the life of Eddie Mannix, who is head of property protection at Capitol Pictures. Basically, he looks after the stars and their public image. When Baird Whitlock, the star of the studio's next biggest blockbuster, Hail Caesar, is kidnapped, Mannix has his work cut out for him. So, a few things that I loved about this movie. 1950s Hollywood was brilliant. I loved seeing that behind the scenes and everything. One of the first times, not the first time, but one of the first times I really got a good look and got the feel and the tone of 1950s Hollywood. I thought that worked really well. I was very impressed. The cinematography was classy. I loved Josh Brolin as Mannix. I thought he did a brilliant job. I loved the editing, how scenes from the movies being shot in the movie were integrated into the movie that we were watching. I thought that was really clever, and it led me thinking, is this a scene? Is this real? And it always answers that question, which is great. But to keep you on your toes and guessing on where the story's going and what the director's doing, I loved completely. All the characters were great. They were well-grounded characters. I believe them all. You had the dumb actors, you had the sassy actors, you had the directors, you saw them struggling, you saw the cinematographers. It was all great. I loved the characters. But let's face it, the story here was weak and often pretty boring, and there was far too much given away in the trailer. For example, this scene where we see George Clooney walking into the room and seeing the kidnappers. What the hell? Save that for the movie. Don't let us see the kidnappers, just let us know that Bed Whitlock has been kidnapped. You know, so I was a bit disappointed with that. I hoped for a little more. I thought, right, so the trailers have told me this much, what are you now going to show me for my ticket price? And the reality of it was, there wasn't anything. I don't want to spoil the movie. The end all bad guy is political, let's say, and it fell flat for me. So my rating for this movie, there was a lot that I loved and a bit that I hated. It was often boring, but I was encapsulated by the way it was shot. So I give it a very respectable 7 out of 10. And will I rewatch it? Yeah, sure. In about 12 months' time, I'll probably, you know, rent it, or if it's on Netflix, I'll definitely be watching it. I'm not sure that I'll buy it unless it comes in a Coen Brothers special edition Blu-ray box set or something like that. So the last film that I saw this weekend was London Has Fallen. It was directed by Babak Najafi. It stars Gerard Butler as Michael Banning. It stars Aaron Eckhart as President Benjamin Asher and Morgan Freeman as Vice President Trumbull. The plot is when the Prime Minister dies, all the leaders of the Western world attend his funeral, where Mike Branning uncovers a plot to assassinate all those attending. The movie follows Michael in his attempt to keep the president safe. Straight off the bat, this is a sequel, and I hadn't seen the first. The first was Olympus Has Fallen. It came out about the same time as White House Down. To me, it felt a bit like a great popcorn flick, exactly, but you do not need to see the sequel. You see, the film kind of is set in the real world, so with that being said, we have a Prime Minister, a President, we understand what's going on, we understand who the Secret Service are, we understand who MI5 is or MI6, we understand who the police force is, so you're straight in there. We know who Gerard Butler is, we believe him as an action star, let's get going. So the action was well shot, although I didn't believe the effects, and it's probably just me being English, but every time I see London get destroyed, it always looks really fake to me. I don't believe it. I don't know if Americans believe that when they see Manhattan getting destroyed. For me that kind of looks realistic, but I've never been there, so I've nothing to compare it to. I have been to London. The plot is a typical action plot. Save the Prime Minister at the end of the day and beat the bad guys along the way. The villains are given no real depth. We understand the cause for the main villain, but I always wonder, how did he get the army? He's not got an army, but he's got a hell of a lot of people behind him. Like, how has he got these people? Those questions never get answered, so you have to really shut off your brain, shove popcorn in your mouth, and just watch explosions, gunfire, and heart-racing action scenes, which this movie does deliver. If I rate this movie, I give it a 7 out of 10. And rewatch it. Yeah, like I said, it's an action flick. I'm not going to go out and buy this movie. It wasn't spectacular. However, whenever I next see it being shown on TV, Netflix, anything like that, yeah, I'm going to watch it. I estimate that'll probably be in about 2 years' time. But hey, I like popcorn. I like to shove it in my face. Sometimes I like to turn my brain off. Not always. But in this case, yeah, that's okay. It's pretty cool. So, that was this week's movie review show. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm just going to be cheeky now and I'm going to plug my Let's Talk About Product Placement video, where we look at whether product placements are a good thing or a bad thing. If you'd like to click here to have a look at that, it gives a few examples of where product placements are in movies and whether we deserve to know about them before walking into the movie. I mean, after all, are we watching a movie or are we watching an advertisement? We deserve to know that. Please subscribe to my channel. Like the video if you like the video. Don't like the video if you didn't like the video. That's pretty simple. Do you got anything to say? Anything to say to me? Anything to talk about these movies? Did you disagree with my reviews? Did you agree with my reviews? Did you wish that I'd furthered my reviews in a certain way? Comment them below. Let me know. Let's get a conversation started. And as always, you've been awesome. I hope I've been awesome. And until next week, catch you later.